This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, episode number 380, where I am here with a very special guest. A guest who's kind of been on a few podcasts, well, most podcasts for about the last 4 years-ish. My guest is ChatGPT. Now let me explain. So, it's one of those weeks where I haven't recorded a podcast with someone else because I very secretly hoped I would be out celebrating on Sunday evening, celebrating England becoming world champions after winning the World Cup. And I thought that would be a monumental podcast. But as I'm sure you know, that did not happen. England lost to Argentina in the semi-final on Wednesday night. By the way, I'm recording this before the final, so I don't know if Spain are the champions or Argentina. But England lost on Wednesday to Argentina. And when they lost, I thought, right, well, I have to do something different for the podcast now. It was kind of expected. Like I said, I hoped I would be recording the celebrations, but deep down I thought it's too good to happen. So then I thought, right, I'll have to record something else. And then Thursday, Friday, I'm now recording this Saturday night. It's been too painful. I haven't been able to function properly. There have been times where I have been just sitting down on the couch and my wife can see my sort of thoughts moving and she will say, "Are you okay?" Oh, and I will say, yeah. And then she will say, "You're thinking about the football again, aren't you?" And I would say, yes. So I've decided to do something a bit different. So I am talking to ChatGPT. Now, let me explain, because at some point, someone said along the way, I can't even remember who in the last few days, it's been a blur. I'm talking like, I don't know, something really serious has happened. But the last few days have been a bit of a blur. I can't really remember who I've spoken to. I've spoken to so many people. I've listened to so many things. And someone along the line said one of the things which in the past I thought was a horrible thing to say, which is, it's just a game. Now, when I was young, I was like now, I was a big football fan. In fact, I was a bigger football fan when I was young. And if someone said it's just a game, that was like an insult. And then you think about it when you get older and you think, well, it is just a game. So why does it affect me so much? And this is what I wanted to find out, because I'm not so intelligent. I don't know how to explain these things, and what I really wanted to find out is why it affects so many people, because I even spoke to people, I won't mention any names, but people that have zero interest in football on Thursday and even on Friday. On Friday it was my daughter's last day of school for the year. Lots of parents went to the park after with the children, obviously, so I spoke to lots of parents, and lots of people that do not follow football at all told me how gutted they are. They said, "I'm still thinking about the football." And I thought, why is that? Why do people take football so seriously? It is just a game. And the thing which interests me the most is the people that don't care about football. I think, I love football, but why do people that don't like football get so involved? Because it is just a game. So I put into ChatGPT. So this is how it's going to work. I put these things into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave me some answers. And I thought we'll have a talk about these answers. Okay. I have kind of eliminated lots of the answers. I'm not just going to read them. I've kind of just made some notes about the things it said. So I've asked it various different questions, and I especially think you will enjoy the last question. As in the last question, I focus on a bit more me specifically and ask ChatGPT some questions, and it gives me some brilliant answers. Now, Obviously, I am telling you that because I want you to listen to all of the podcasts and listen to the end. However, if you think I really don't want to listen to this, just go to the end anyway, because I think it's beautiful. Okay, so the first thing I asked ChatGPT was, why do people love football and take it so seriously, especially the World Cup? Because at the end of the day, it's just a game. And ChatGPT gave me these things, and I'm not here to say this is true or not true, just for people to think about, because if you are one of those people that either love football like me, or you don't particularly like football but you get involved in the World Cup, then maybe this will explain a few things. So number one, it's a tribal experience, and we are made to stay in tribes. So obviously years and years ago humans were all in tribes, and that kind of is how football feels, especially club football. So club football meaning teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Liverpool, which I must say, now I follow all football, but when the World Cup's on and then it finishes, I almost think, what's the point in club football? It's so meaningless in comparison to a World Cup. So when people, I can hear now talking about when the season starts again and, Manchester United will play, I just think now, like, it's so meaningless. But then when it starts, I will get fully involved again. Not as much as the World Cup. This is the thing missing from my life, which I think maybe is why it affects me so much. So there is that tribal experience. And one other thing is national pride. Now, I think with the world we live in today, it's very difficult, certainly in the country I live in, it's very difficult to be proud of the nation I live. There's lots of, people always now, for example, England flags, the actual England flag, okay, is very much represented with being basically racist now. Now, I bought an England flag for this tournament, okay, an actual England, not Great Britain, England flag. Now, I'm not racist. I just wanted one for the football. You do see them during the football. It's a bit more common to see England flags in the football, but it made me proud to be English. So bringing back a bit of national pride, a bit of feel-good factor. So another reason why is that it says it's a shared cultural event. So the World Cup, obviously, all nations follow it. I've seen many things on social media recently, which is fantastic to see people from all different countries getting on very well, and people posted things like, without governments, people in the world would just get on and have a good time. And whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it is absolutely beautiful to see. And another thing is, especially this World Cup with all the kind of political things going on, it's like when the football starts, it's kind of like nothing else matters, which is a real beautiful thing to see. However, all of those answers I got, that it's a tribal experience, national pride, it's a shared cultural event, I asked ChatGPT, but why is it not the same for other sports? For example, everything you said about it being a tribal, national pride, cultural event, you could use that for the Rugby World Cup, for example. Now, I remember England did win the Rugby World Cup in 2003, maybe another time as well. I don't even know. So how is that possible? Why is it only football? And the reason I have here from ChatGPT is that football is simple enough for everyone, but deep enough for obsession. So I really like this. So a 5-year-old can understand football. Just kick the ball. That's all you really need to play football, isn't it? You just need a ball. You don't even really need a goal, because you can just kick the ball around. And it's the simplicity of the game. You can play in the beach. You can play in the park. In fact, one of my great memories in life, I don't know why, when I was in New York, actually, where this World Cup is taking place, and I was in Central Park, I was with some friends, and there were some people playing football. They seemed to be from many countries. I remember there was an Italian guy there was obviously some Americans from all over the world, and then my friend and I started playing, and we played football with them for about 2 hours. And that is the beauty of football. We didn't know these people, but we just said, can we play? They said yes. and it was fantastic. That's the beauty. I remember when I lived in Rome, I was having an argument with an American guy, and he was saying how football, what they call soccer, is a rubbish sport, and how American football is much better. And one of the reasons he said is football is too simple. And at the time, I was trying to argue and say it's not simple, to try and win the argument. However, that is what makes it so beautiful. Simplicity in everything, I have found, makes it beautiful. However, even if it is simple, it's deep enough for obsession. So people like me, the losers, I know about formations, player movement, psychology, the economics, all of these things. So you can go deep, but it is simple. And the other thing is the drama in football, okay? Because using my American's friend, his example, I don't even know how many points you get in American football, but in basketball, you get like 100 points a team. In rugby, 20 to 30. Football might be 1-0. It might be 2-1. And it's that moment. It only takes a second to score a goal, and everything can change. I think ChatGPT didn't say this bit, but I think it's kind of like in life, isn't it? You can be walking down the street and then you can fall in love with a beautiful girl or a beautiful man. You can get hit by a car. Anything can change at any second. And that, in my opinion, is another reason why everyone loves it. Because, as I've said before, you can have your opinion whether you like it or not, but there can be no argument about football being the most popular sport in the world. There is no other sport where you see those numbers and people going to those lengths of paying thousands and thousands of pounds. Someone in England sold their house to go to the World Cup. Now, if we had won the World Cup, maybe I would have thought about it as well. But no, I wouldn't have thought about it. But that's what I mean. It means so much to people. However, I still wasn't happy with it. So I said, what about the Olympics then? I asked ChatGPT, well, even the Olympics for me and what I see in countries I've lived in, 2 countries, not even the Olympics gets to the same level. And the point here made was that the Olympics are incredible, but they are kind of fragmented. That's a lovely word, kind of split up a bit. There are lots of different events. There's the swimming, the athletics, the gymnastics, the cycling, the rowing, etc., etc. Whilst football is focused on that one game. There's the intellectual side of the game, the tactics, the predictions, the analysis. There's the emotional side, which for me is where it happens. The hope, the excitement, the revenge. There is also the social side, which, especially in a World Cup, is fantastic. Family, friends, conversations. I recently went to a barbecue where I didn't really know anyone. It was like a friend of my wife, and I was talking to someone. It was the uncle of the person that was having the barbecue. I'd never met this person in my life. He said to me, "Are you watching the football at the moment?" I would say we spoke for nearly 2 hours. And my wife had to literally drag me away from this person because we were having such a great talk about football, such a great conversation. But then I got given these 2 other reasons why football is so popular, I suppose. And number one is the stories, okay? This is something which I think is important, something which you know I love, a story. And football is just like a never-ending soap drama. There are heroes and villains, the underdogs. Everyone loves an underdog, don't they? Remember, the underdog meaning someone that is not expected to win. For example, Greece, who won the European Championships in 2004, they were a massive underdog. A great line from ChatGPT here is, humans are naturally drawn to stories. Football gives you new chapters every week. Which again is us only if you follow football all the time like I do. But the World Cup and football in general, another one here is it creates emotional uncertainty in real time. And this is a very interesting point. It said, for example, people get addicted to gambling and betting, don't they? You know, like betting who's going to win, because apparently our brains are very responsive to uncertain rewards. So if I bet on this horse to win, I don't know if this is going to happen. It's an uncertain reward. And this basic principle is exactly what football is. It's very uncertain. Who's going to win? I don't know. Everyone thought France were going to win the World Cup. I did. bang, they're out. Didn't happen. Because a dominant team like France can lose. A tiny country can beat a giant. And there are many more reasons. But I also asked ChatGPT, because I think we've established football is the most popular sport in the world. It means a lot because of the way it's played, etc. So I'm going to read the prompt I put into ChatGPT, which was, I like football, but for example, I'm not particularly bothered if the England women's team wins or loses. Why is that? Now, I know this may sound controversial, but just stay with me. I continue to write. The England women's team won a trophy recently, and I was happy for them, but nowhere near as happy as I would be if the men won a tournament. Why? I do not believe I am sexist in any way. I enjoyed watching the women's matches, but why do I not care as much, as it's still England, and it's still England playing football? And then it gave me the answer of the story again, of how I have been following this story for a very long time with the England men's team, which is true. I know basically the whole story since 1966, when we last won the World Cup, which was 18 years before I was born. And an interesting point is it said the Lionesses, the England women's team, have their own story. But for many fans, it's a newer story. You haven't spent decades emotionally invested in that particular story. So I thought, right, okay, that's why maybe I'm not as invested in the women's team, because that makes sense. I don't know most of the players for the England women's team. I don't know the stories. But then I thought, well, is that not the same for people that don't watch football and then start following the World Cup? So I said, yes, that's right, as I have followed the story of the men's game for a very long time. But for people that don't follow football and only watch the World Cup, is it not the same for them watching the men's World Cup as it is the same for me watching the women's World Cup? Because it's a new story for them. They don't know the players and the storylines. Again, trying to get to the bottom of this and putting the questions to ChatGPT. And this is where I think I got the best answer. It simply said, excitement creates excitement. So when I was watching these games, it all makes sense now. With my children, for example, when England played Congo, the game which was at 5 p.m. Now, England were losing for a large period of that game, and then England scored, I don't know, with about 30 minutes to go. And when that happened, I jumped up and I threw both of my children up into the air, and they started to enjoy themselves a lot. And then a few minutes later, England scored again. So I was jumping up and down again, throwing things around, and then both of my children said to me, throw me in the sky again, because they were excited. My excitement had created excitement for them. They, before this World Cup, didn't care at all about football. So I think maybe we are getting somewhere now. And it mentions how the pubs are full of people. There are flags everywhere. So again, I told you I bought an England flag for this World Cup. I went on the bike with my children holding the flag, and we used to count all the houses that had the flags on them. We said, there's an England flag, there's an England flag. So I think that really is one of the keys here. Excitement creates excitement. So even if you're not particularly excited about it, you see other people get excited about it, and that makes you excited about it. And I also think a very good lesson for life in general, if you bring positivity, other people will be positive. If you bring negativity, other people will be negative. So now I wanted to move on about why I feel so devastated. I still feel devastated now, I must admit. Now, I thought it's simple, because England lost in the most pathetic way. Now, we lost the final to Spain 2 years ago, and that was no problem. I don't think anyone in England complained, because Spain was simply better than us. We tried our best. It wasn't good enough. We lost in the final, not the semi-final. We lost in the final of the European Championships, and that was fine. This time, we were there. We were in the semi-final. We were doing really well. We were winning the match 1-0. And then it felt like we just threw it away. It felt like we stopped playing. It was like we were running a marathon. We were coming right towards the end. We'd just moved in front, very close to the end. But instead of trying to finish the marathon and win the race, we thought, let's block the next runner, the runner who is in second position. Then the runner in second position just pushed us away, said, "What are you doing?" and finished the race. That is how it feels that we finished the marathon. So pathetic and so cowardly. Now those are my thoughts. That was not ChatGPT, but I thought, I'm having a good conversation here with ChatGPT, so let's keep this going. So I wrote, England lost in the semi-final this year and I feel devastated, but I'm just trying to make sense of my emotions. I think it's because we put so much into this, and the way we lost against Argentina, we just seemed to throw the towel in. Lovely term there, to throw the towel in, to surrender. But can you make sense of my emotions and tell me why I feel like this? Which I know that is a ridiculous thing to ask ChatGPT, but it was kind of a social experiment. And here is where I think the answers actually get very interesting. It starts by saying you feel confused and angry and you have many unanswered questions, such as why did we stop playing? Why did we make defensive substitutions? And there are no answers to these questions, so your brain keeps asking them. Yep, I can understand that one. But the next one is the really interesting one. It says, when England lose, a part of you loses the person that you were going to be if they won. I read that and I thought, what the hell does that mean? I've lost part of the person that I was going to become. And then it says the version of you that you would have become would have celebrated, remembered the day forever, told people, I remember where I was when England won. And that person never got to exist. And then I thought, bloody hell, that sounds exactly right. For example, when we beat Mexico, I didn't sleep all night. I took my children to school on the bike. We were waving our flags. The cars were all hitting their horns at us as we were going along the streets. Everyone's going, duh, duh, duh. And the excitement was unbelievable. And I was denied that excitement again. Because obviously when England lost to Argentina, I didn't do that the next day. I would have looked like an idiot. And also, I didn't want to. I was not excited. I was devastated. And then the closing paragraph goes on to say, and the strange thing about football is that years from now, the pain itself may become part of the reason you love it. The heartbreaks become chapters too. Fans don't remember only the trophies, they remember the nights they believed, the moments they hoped, and the times it slipped away. That's what makes the eventual victories feel so powerful, which I think is beautiful. And that is why, in my opinion, football is the greatest sport in the world, for the emotion that it brings. The good and the bad, because it's the bad which makes the good, isn't it? So one day, if England win something in my life, and that is a big if, all of these defeats, all of the times we have lost will make it feel so good. At the moment, 4 years feels like a lifetime away. I told my daughter, who is 5, she said, well, can we win the World Cup next time? I said, she's 5 at the moment, as I said. And I said, next time you'll be 9 when the World Cup is on. Now, 4 years for me, I'm 41. In 4 years, I'll be 45. Doesn't change a lot. When I told her she'd be 9, she literally thought that is another lifetime. That's what it feels like at the moment. Still at the moment, it feels like I can't even be bothered anymore. I just want to give up. But that's because I'm still hurting. And that's good to hurt, because that's what will make it so much more beautiful if, and I say if, we ever win. Now, that is actually it for today. I thought I would just share this podcast with you because enthusiasm creates enthusiasm. If you're not a football fan at all. I just hope some of the emotion I have managed to transmit to you, and hopefully maybe helped you understand the beautiful game and why everyone loves it. So that's it from me today. I hope you have enjoyed the World Cup. I still don't know who the winner is because I'm recording this before, but in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.